On December 26, 1900, the relief ship Hesperus arrived at the remote Flannan Isles. Usually, a flag would be flying and the keepers would be waiting at the dock. But on this afternoon, there was no signal and no one came to meet the boat. This is the actual Fresnel lens from the station. It was built to project a 140,000 candle power beam across the North Atlantic. Yet for days, this massive piece of machinery had been dark. Relief keeper Joseph Moore climbed the 160 steep steps cut into the cliffside alone. When he reached the top, he found the compound gates and the main door both closed. Inside, everything was in its place, but the silence was absolute. The beds were unmade, the kitchen clock had stopped, and a single chair lay overturned on the floor. On a peg by the door, investigators found a detail that didn't fit. 2 sets of oilskins were missing, but the third coat, belonging to Donald McArthur, remained. In the middle of a Scottish winter, a veteran mariner had apparently walked out into the storm in his shirt sleeves. 3 experienced men had vanished from a rock they could not escape, leaving the lighthouse in perfect working order. Long before the lighthouse was built, the Flannan Isles, known as the Seven Hunters, were defined by a specific kind of atmospheric dread. Local shepherds refused to stay on Eilean Mòr after sunset, believing the plateau was haunted by a malevolent supernatural entity called the Phantom of the Seven Hunters. For centuries, any visitor who landed here felt compelled to perform specific rituals to ward off bad luck, like uncovering their heads and making a full clockwise turn the moment they reached the grass. This environment of religious superstition and folklore weighed heavily on the keepers, who lived with the constant knowledge of how far they were from any help on the mainland. Because of these legends, the local population in the Hebrides didn't look for a rational explanation. They were already primed to believe that the island itself had taken the men. The most enduring part of the mystery comes from the keeper's logbook, which seemed to provide a psychological map of their final hours. An entry from December 12th described a storm so severe it was unlike anything seen in 20 years. Oddly, no ships or neighboring islands recorded any major storms in the area on that day. The log recorded a total breakdown of the men's composure. It claimed the principal keeper was eerily quiet, and that Donald McArthur, a man famous for his toughness, had been reduced to tears. By the 13th, the log described a scene of desperation, with all 3 men huddling together to pray in the eye of the gale. Then the final entry appeared on December 15th. Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all. These entries suggested that the isolation had driven them to madness, or that they had been terrified by something much darker than a winter gale. Days after the discovery, Superintendent Robert Muirhead arrived to conduct the official forensic investigation. Muirhead looked past the folklore and focused on the physical evidence scattered around the island's perimeter, specifically at the West Landing. He found iron railings that had been wrenched from their concrete moorings and twisted like wire. A supply box had been swept away from a crevice 110 feet above the sea, and a rock weighing over a ton had moved a considerable distance from its original position. The damage pattern proved the island was struck by a force capable of lifting the ocean itself more than 100 feet into the air. This graph represents a rogue wave, a spontaneous wall of water doubling surrounding waves. These are concentrated pulses of kinetic energy. Muirhead theorized Ducat and Marshall were securing ropes when a 110-foot wave surged up the cliff, sweeping them away instantly. McArthur likely saw the wave from the lighthouse and ran out to warn them. Rushing coatless, he was caught by the plateau's secondary surge. But there is a final correction to the story. Research by journalist Mike Dash revealed that the terrifying logbook entries were actually a hoax, likely invented by a pulp magazine. The real log entries were strictly formal weather readings. None of the praying or crying ever happened. The public chose the hoax because the alternative is more disturbing. The ocean doesn't need ghosts to erase 3 men, just a single silent wave.